Community Viewpoint with Maria Hurst.
Hi, welcome to Community Viewpoint. I'm your host for this segment, Maria Hurst. And tonight we're going to be talking about heat, because there's been some extreme heat warnings here in the Valley. And we're going to be talking about what you can do to make sure that there's no consequences from that heat and that you get prepared. And we're going to be joined by our own Noah Began from our KPVM News Weather. Hi, welcome, Noah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, today you've been, well, not today, over the last couple of weeks, there's been some extreme heat warnings on the news.
Yes, there's actually one coming up. It's actually going to be starting Sunday at 10 a.m. and it's going to go all the way to Wednesday at 9 p.m. So there's a nice long excessive heat warning coming up. So we definitely want to make sure everyone is prepared for that.
And so let's talk a little bit about what we can do to prepare. Because
right.
that's quite a long stretch. That's like Sunday early to Wednesday. That's like about 4 days of extreme heat. And I mean, we do live in the desert, so extreme heat is just kind of like a little step further than what other Americans may consider already extreme heat.
Right. It does definitely get a lot hotter here since we do live in the desert.
Right.
There are a few tips that I usually go through on the weather, and sometimes we make its own segment out of it in the news. And there's some important tips. Mainly, number one tip is to drink a lot of water. Water, it is so easy to become dehydrated when it is hot outside like this. And you're not always going to feel thirsty when you do get dehydrated. So you want to make sure you're drinking a lot of water and, just make sure you're staying hydrated.
One thing about drinking water is signs of heat stroke. You won't be thirsty. Signs of heat stroke. If you notice somebody at your workplace, at the grocery store loading their groceries, if you see somebody struggling and, you say, do you want any water? If they say no, they're not thirsty, they're not sweating, they're not thirsty, but their lips are getting really dry, they're lethargic a bit, maybe they're confused.
Right.
That's a sign of heat stroke. You're going to want to put water on them. You're going to want to call 911 because it's really dangerous.
Make sure you get them in an air-conditioned area or under shade if you're outside and you can't get indoors. Make sure you get under some shade. Also, some other symptoms are paleness and muscle cramps and dizziness.
Yes.
So if you or someone you're with are experiencing any of those symptoms, get under shade, get in an air-conditioned environment, call 911. And
you can hydrate the person on the outside as well.
Right.
If you can get them to sip water, but it can be fatal. Heat stroke can be fatal.
Heat stroke can be fatal. And so it's definitely, if you're having any sort of heat emergency, feel free, call that 911. It's the only way to stay safe.
And it's preventable.
It is preventable.
As long as you're taking precautions. I mean, since we're talking about other heat emergencies, some things that may not be preventable is like if your car breaks down or something. So be prepared, because we do live in the desert. It's super dry here. I mean, aside from the heat, we have this dryness too. So put water in your car, snacks in your car, shade. Maybe an umbrella isn't just used for the rain. You can use it to shade yourself should something like that happen.
Right.
And you have another type of emergency. Just be prepared,
And another tip I will say is when you are traveling, you always want to carry water with you and carry a cell phone with you, because that can be the difference between life and death. If your car does break down, if you have that cell phone, you can call for help. So you want to make sure you have a cell phone. If you're traveling with friends, that's another great way to stay safe. So if you fall under symptoms or your friend falls under symptoms, the other person can call for you.
And then you always have somebody there that can help.
Right.
That can help. So, I mean, I think most people travel with cell phones, but I think it is something sometimes we take for granted, I left to come here today and I forgot my phone, but I was traveling with my daughter who has her cell phone, so there was a cell phone in the car. But it's a reminder. I mean, it might seem silly sometimes, but you really should not leave your home without your cell phone, especially now with these heat warnings. unless you have like OnStar. I mean, if you have that type of service in your car. But again, those things can malfunction. So make sure your phone is charged. Make sure you have it with you all the time. And this is something I never forget my cell phone, and today I did. So I'm glad you said that, because it's really a good reminder. It may seem like a small thing, but it can be making a huge difference.
Going into next week with that excessive heat warning, make sure you do have your phone. Make sure you charge it before you leave the house. And another tip to give is, if you are going to go outside, you want to limit your outdoor activities to either the early morning or the evening. You don't want to be outside during that hottest part of the day, because that is when it is easiest to become dehydrated and fall victim to heat-related illness.
Yeah, even if you have things that have to be done, you know, like weeds or, you know, watering or something, if you don't remember in the morning and it's not safe and there's not somebody there that can just, that you can run out and do it, if it's not like a 5-minute thing, limit, like you said, if it will wait. The work will wait until the evening.
Right.
But your health, you know, don't sacrifice yourself to do a chore
some
that
people
can wait.
may have to go outdoors. Maybe they're working that day or something, and they work in an outdoor area. And if that is the case for you, you want to make sure you're taking frequent breaks and drink plenty of water. Wear sunscreen, because the UV index is up. It's going to be very high through the entire summer. So always wear sunscreen when you go outdoors.
Like
wearing a hat is good.
Like one of those hats that with the rim.
It's also good to wear light clothing that's lightweight, light-colored clothing. And that will help reflect the sunlight, so that way all that heat won't stick to your clothes, basically. Yeah. Yes,
the white clothes. I do notice a lot of workers out when you're driving out and there is workers and it's hot. They always have like a long sleeve, but it looks like a thin white shirt. And they're always wearing that to protect themselves.
Yeah, it's definitely a great thing to wear. You can always look at, if there's construction workers outside, look at what they're wearing. That's probably the best things to be wearing.
Right, right, because they know how to manage that.
Right.
So, okay, so we're talking about taking stuff with you in the car. So let's talk about when you get to your destination. Let's talk about things you don't want to leave in the car. Definitely. Don't leave your children in the car, not even for 5 minutes. Don't leave your pets in the car, and don't leave your cell phone in the car.
Right.
I mean, because then your cell, I mean, the heat can damage the phone, so just keep it on you. And please, please, even if you think that it's a quick trip, don't leave your pets or your children in the car.
Always.
It's
temperatures
not
inside
safe.
a car quickly rise well above the outdoor temperature, and just 5 minutes, like you said, it can rise over 20 degrees above what it is outside. Lethal temperatures for anyone inside the car.
Yeah.
And also, you may think leaving your car on with the air conditioning might be a good idea, but that's actually illegal in the state of Nevada. You can't leave your car running with no one inside of it. So if you are going to be going somewhere, you may want to just leave your pets at home. That's probably the safest bet.
Right.
If you're bringing your kids, bring them in with you. You don't want to leave anyone inside a hot car.
And a lot of times, too, there's a lot of elderly people here in town that have caregivers. Even if a caregiver has to go run an errand, if you have that elderly person with you, don't leave them in the car either.
Right.
Get them out. Or go to the drive-through. A lot of the pharmacies, if it's a pharmacy visit, they have a drive-through. Go to the drive-through instead of if it's difficult to get them in and out of the car, or take them to their destination and go back out and run that errand.
Right.
Because
people who are
they're very fragile.
People who are particularly prone to heat-related illness are the elderly, also children, and people with poor circulation or weight problems also have trouble adjusting to the heat. So make sure you're checking in on your neighbors. Make sure you're doing that, because a lot of people, they don't even have AC out in this desert.
That is amazing.
Shocking,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, make sure you're checking in on your friends, family, especially those who are prone to heat-related illness or need some help adjusting to these hotter temperatures.
That makes me think about, I mean, certainly I can't even imagine no air conditioning, but there is some people, I heard a few years back about some people in another town that didn't want to use their air conditioning. So if you have friends or family like that just, no, I don't need to use the air conditioning, encourage them to keep their house at a safe temperature,
Right.
so that they don't, fall victim to a heat-related injury or illness.
Right. Earlier we mentioned pets.
Pets, yes.
Pets, we don't want to leave them in their car. You want to leave them at home. You also want to leave them indoors.
point.
You don't want to leave them outside in this hot temperature because your pets, just like us, can get these heat-related illnesses. And a doghouse is not enough shade for your pet. Oftentimes it'll get hotter inside a doghouse than it is outside. But if that's the only shade they have, they will go and sit in that doghouse. So you want to make
Right.
sure they have lots of shade and lots of water anytime they are outdoors. Even just quick trip outside so they can do their business. Make sure there's some water out there, some shade for them to sit under if they decide to stay outside a little longer.
Right.
And just bring them indoors is probably your safest bet, to bring them inside to that air-conditioned home and just keep them out of the sun.
And if you're not home, I'm glad that you brought that up, because if you're not home and your pet is at home, you still need to keep your house at a safe temperature to keep your pet safe.
Definitely.
Not just for people, but for pets. I mean, we have them and we love them, and we
Right.
want to make sure. I know I leave it on for my little Mugsy. Too bad she can't. Well, maybe she'll watch this later, and then she'll see that I mentioned her name on the show.
Also, when you're walking your pets outside in these hot temperatures,
Take water.
take water
Yes.
with you. And also, there is a quick little trick you can do to see if the cement is too hot for your pets. What you do is you take the back of your hand and you put it down on the ground. And if it's too hot for your hand to stay there for 5 seconds, it's too hot for your pets to walk on.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's a good point. And we also have this book, Emergency Preparedness Guide, that you can get over at the fire department at Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue. And if they're out, you can go in their lobby and get it. And if they're out, just ask for more.
So
And
just
so-
closing tips right here. Drink water. I cannot stress enough, drink water. My own father, last time we had an excessive heat warning, my family decided to sell their pool. So my father went outside and took down, or started taking down the pool, and then he
In the middle of
started
the day.
suffering from heat stroke. And I had just done a segment the day before. Out of all these tips, didn't listen to a single one of them.
Oh, man.
he
And
had
he
to
should
stay-
know.
yeah.
He's a healthcare provider.
They stayed inside the next day, and
Yeah.
they learned
and
their
they
lesson.
listened, yes.
Drink
Yes.
water.
You cannot,
Lots of water.
We cannot stress this enough to you, to drink water. And sometimes people will say, I have a Gatorade, I have this, or I have a Powerade, or whatever. I didn't mean to name specific brands, but there's also sugar in those, which sugar can also cause dehydration. So
true.
just make sure, water is really the best way.
Stay away from salty foods. Also, alcoholic beverages. Those will
Really
dehydrate you as
dehydrating.
well.
Really
so you want to make
dehydrating.
sure water's probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and there's no calories, so.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts from you?
I just thank you, everybody, for joining us, and please take heed of all these warnings and take care of yourself and your loved ones and your pets and your homes, and just be careful. And these extreme heat warnings, the heat can also cause things to become flammable. So just take care in your homes with your family and your pets in your homes.
Drink water, wear
And
sunscreen.
drink water and wear sunscreen.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Good night.
Community Viewpoint with Maria Hurst.